No, but can you imagine? Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Glad you could join me again today. In this video, we're going to be covering 20 quick tips to help you improve your drum and bass productions. And not only drum and bass for that matter, you can apply these tips to any music genre you wish. Real quick before the video starts, I just want to give a huge thanks to you guys for helping me surpass 1K subscribers. I really love the support this channel is getting, and it's what keeps me motivated to keep making more videos to help you guys out, because you guys really seem to enjoy these types of videos, and I've gotten tons of messages saying, yeah, your videos have helped me, this and that, so that just puts a smile on my face. Now with that being said, let's get into the video. Here's a quick way of making effects that you can use to fill in your intros or transitions or whatnot. First, you gather some robotic, glitchy, or grotty sound effects. Then you EQ all the lower frequencies out, add a filter of your choice. You can even add like a phaser or a flanger on top of that. Then add some echo. If you want to spice it up, add some stereo echo to make it bounce from left to right. And last but not least, add your favorite reverb plugin on there. Always bounce and save your basses after you finish your projects. Save them in a big library, that way you have a big collection of stems to use in your future projects. Resampling is a really good way to create different variations of synths that you may have created in the past, or just create completely new synths. For that, obviously you're gonna need bass samples, so previous tip, plan in a few sessions to just focus on sound design. Now this is beneficial for a lot of reasons. If you're just going to focus on sound design, obviously you're going to become a better sound designer. You're going to get a better grip on how sound synthesis works. You're going to get a better grip on that specific plugin you're focusing on. And if you're just making sounds for the fun of it, you can usually get some really nice results that you otherwise wouldn't get if, say, for example, you're working on a project and you have this one type of bass in mind and you're trying to make it, but it just doesn't work, you know? You're just creating to create, so whatever comes out, and then you can use that in your future projects. Using reverses in your tracks. Now, reverse samples can be used in a lot of different ways. For example, you can take your kick sample and reverse it to kind of ease the kick in. Same with the snare. You can take your snare and then reverse that and take off the big transient, and then it leads into that snare. You can even use this technique to spicing up your synth patterns. Learn your keyboard shortcuts. Now, I started learning my keyboard shortcuts about 1.5 years ago when I started going to college. They drilled it into my head since the first day. I had to learn tons of new programs, and this had to be done fast. Now, I'm not saying you should just print a big list with all the shortcuts and learn it by heart. Just work as you normally do, and then once you reach a point, for example, where you want to bounce something, or you want to split something, or whatever action you want to do, instead of using your mouse and using the tools there, just go up to that upper bar and see what the key command is. And instead of actually pressing the button, you just close the bar and do the key command. That way it will just become muscle memory before you know it. Get inspired by other artists and compare your track to their tracks. Structure-wise, what are they doing? How are they building tension? When are they switching? What kind of effects do they use? Are the drums really punchy? What kind of snare? You know, stuff like this. Just study it. Analyze how their track is structured and mixed and whatnot, and then apply that to your own projects. Adding ambient sounds in your intro is a really good way to make it feel more alive. For example, if you're having a jungle type of drum and bass track, you can add actual jungle ambience in there. Or if you're having a more futuristic jump up drum and bass track, you can add some city sounds in there, or you know, try different things out. In the intro, you can have the main drop gradually coming in via filtering and EQ and reverb and echo and those kind of stuff, you know, to make it less unexpected. If you have a melodic drop, you can, for example, take the same bass pattern but use a different lighter synth that is suitable in an intro. Don't force it if it doesn't fit. This goes for a lot of things, for example, drum samples or synth samples. Don't get me wrong, modifying and adjusting to your liking can result in a really unique and good sound, and sometimes it's really good. But if you have to force a sound so hard to just kind of fit in there, it's probably just better if you look for other sounds that might fit in there. Sometimes you just gotta let go. Which brings me to my next tip. When you're creating your bass pattern, don't be afraid to just add tons and tons of basses in there, from plugins, from your stem library that you might have already bounced. The more stuff you try out, the more options you have, and thus you will have a better end result. If you're unsure about a pattern, you can just export that pattern and fall back on it later if you just completely fuck everything up. Off timing. This can be used for a lot of different elements, for example, percussion or sound effects, but the way I use it most is in my bass patterns. For example, if you offset your stabs 1/4 of a beat, the result will be a more filled out kind of beat. Also, you're giving the kicks and snares space to hit, because the kicks and snares hit on that precise one, but then 1/4 after that, that's when the synths hit. Layering white noise on top of your sub bass, or layering white noise or any noise for that matter on top of synths, can be a really good way to make everything seem fuller. In the intro and maybe after the drop as well, if you're having things like vocals or sound effects, it's really important to EQ out all those lower frequencies so they don't clash with any synths that might be occupying those frequencies. Create bus tracks. I can't say this enough. Creating bus tracks helps you to tie elements together, you have more control over your mix down, and it's easier to further down the line do side chaining and stuff like that because you have all these bus tracks made already. Side chaining. A lot of people overlook this in drum and bass, which is sad, because if you don't side chain, then you're just stacking a sub and a kick and a synth all at the same time. Obviously you're going to get distortion. So side chain your sub bass and your synths to your kicks, and sometimes even your snares if that's how you like it. It gives that pumping effect, and it gives kind of an illusion that there's more dynamic things going on, so the track seems more alive. After the drop, try to keep things interesting by adding effects, white noises, transitions, unique drum hits, drum rolls, a lot of different options to keep things interesting after the drop, to keep listeners on their toes, you know? If you're just playing the same 4-bar loop for a minute straight, people are going to get tired of it. Do your final mix down in mono. Stereo can be very deceiving, so if you just throw a plugin on your master track to make everything in mono and then do your mix down, your stereo mix down will probably be a lot better. When you're producing, produce on a low volume. There's a lot of perks to producing on a lower volume. Obviously, you're saving your ears. You can do longer mixing sessions, and you can be more accurate since producing at lower volumes gives you kind of more of an overview. If it's way too loud, you can get kind of lost. It's a good habit to just produce on a lower volume and then worry about the loudness later when you're mastering your track. That's when you can really give everything its beef. On that note, if you're producing a track, try to go for a little bit quieter track with a cleaner mixdown and clearer elements than a very pushed track that, you know, is super loud, has tons of distortion. I prefer having my tracks a little bit quieter than the rest, but having a cleaner end result. I can just turn up the gain in my mixer at the clubs if that's necessary, you know? Make a checklist containing things like, are my bus channels routed correctly? Are there any unnecessary effects? Has there anything been muted without me knowing? Stuff like that. You can go over it before actually exporting your project. That way you can rest safe that you've gone over everything. The last tip is gather tons and tons of knowledge. Watch YouTube videos. Go on forums. The more knowledge you have, the more insight you have on how things work in music production, and you can just become an overall better producer. So those were the 20 tips I have got for you today. Hopefully you learned something new and you can apply these things in your future projects. Let me know if you enjoyed this video by leaving a thumbs up and leaving a comment, giving your tips to other producers to help them improve. Subscribe and hit the bell notification to stay up to date on future videos, because I have a lot of things planned. And if you're interested in exclusive tutorials, exclusive music, samples, presets, projects, etc., etc., go check my Patreon page. All support is really appreciated. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.